My name is Claire, and I'm 35 years old. Last Tuesday evening, it was drizzling in Seattle just like always. I was standing in my kitchen, holding a warm mug of coffee. It was freezing outside, but inside my home, there was a comforting warmth. At exactly 6:17 p.m., my doorbell rang. Once, then twice. 12 years. It had been 12 whole years since I last saw the face of the person standing outside my door. My brother, Derek. When I opened the door, there he was. That old blue jacket of his, which used to be so expensive, was now worn out at the shoulders. There was a strange exhaustion on his face, as if he had left all his arrogance, all his pride, somewhere far behind. He didn't ask how I was doing. He didn't say he was happy to see me after all these years. He just looked at me, and with a heavy voice said, "Claire, I need your help. I've lost everything." But what Derek didn't know was that for the last 12 years, I had been keeping a complete record of every single day, every single dollar, and every single tear. Before we go any further into the story, if you're listening to me for the first time, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to BookBite Studio. And yes, please let me know in the comments which corner of the world you're tuning in from and what time it is right there. I absolutely love reading all your comments. So, let me take you back to when it all started. I was 23, and my entire family lived in a small town in Pennsylvania. My father was a very calm and grounded man. He was a civil engineer by trade who would leave for work at 7 a.m. and return home at exactly 6 p.m. His life ran on a very straightforward and simple rule: there is no substitute for hard work. But my mother, she was completely different. The sun in her world didn't rise for my father or me. It rose for my older brother, Derek. Derek was 3 years older than me, and he was always the golden boy of the family, the one who was never denied anything. Derek was the kind of guy who talked too loudly, who knew exactly how to draw the attention of the whole room, and who always felt like the world was built solely to fulfill his desires. And my mom, she actually did fulfill his every wish. If Derek wanted a new car, the household budget would get slashed. If Derek got into trouble, Mom would spin any tale necessary to bail him out. I was always the quiet one, the girl who cleaned her room without being told, who stayed up all night finishing math and science projects, and whose good grades never warranted a celebration at home. I'm not saying this out of jealousy or anger. I'm saying this so you can understand the math of our family. In our house, love and care were like a budget, and Derek was the line item that always got fully funded first. When I turned 18, I got a full scholarship to the University of Washington to study architecture. I wanted to escape the suffocating atmosphere of that house. I wanted to prove myself. During those 5 years of college, I studied during the day and worked evenings bussing tables at a small cafe. I saved every single quarter just to afford my textbooks. And in those same 5 years, Derek bounced between 2 different colleges, crashed the car Dad gave him 3 separate times, and every single time, Dad quietly paid the bill. I remember when I came back home after graduation, I saw Dad sitting at the dining table, paying off a massive credit card bill of Derek's. He looked at me, a strange exhaustion in his eyes, gave me a faint smile and said, "You'll pave your own way, Claire. I never have to worry about you." That was the last time I saw my dad looking so calm and secure. A few months later, everything changed forever. It was a winter night when Dad suffered a sudden heart attack. He was gone before he even reached the hospital. It was the kind of night that completely pulls the rug out from under you. At the time, I was working as a junior designer at a small architecture firm. I had a grand total of $800 to my name. After Dad passed away, Mom was completely shattered. She was in shock, and Derek, my very own brother, ruthlessly took advantage of that situation. My dad had a will. He had always said that he would split the house, and his life savings equally between the two of us. According to the will, we were each supposed to get about $320,000. To me, that amount wasn't just money. It was my freedom. It was my future. I wanted to use that money to start my own design firm. But Derek had a completely different agenda. Just a week after Dad's funeral, while the house was still draped in dead silence, and I was sitting in my room looking at old photos of Dad, Derek played a sick game with the lawyers. He manipulated Mom. He told her I was too young, that if I got my hands on that much money, I'd just blow it. He convinced her that he would invest all the money into a new business that would benefit the whole family forever. And Mom, who always fell for Derek's words, blindly signed her rights and the family's legal documents away. He exploited some legal loopholes in the will and transferred all of Dad's assets, including my entire inheritance, solely into his name. I found out about this betrayal when I went to the bank to pay off a small student loan. The bank manager looked at me awkwardly and explained that the trust fund under my name had been completely drained and transferred into Derek's account. The ground slipped out from under me. I ran all the way home. When I got to the living room, Derek was sitting comfortably on the couch. He was wearing expensive new shoes and spinning a brand new phone in his hand. With a trembling voice, I asked him what he had done, what he did with Dad's money. He put the phone on the table, looked at me with ice-cold eyes, and said in a deadpan voice, "I did what was right for this family. You aren't capable of handling this money, Claire. You aren't even worthy of being a part of this family." I turned to look at Mom. She was standing right there. I hoped she would say something, that she would defend me, but she just lowered her gaze. She kept staring at the floor. She didn't say a single word. In that one moment, her silence told me everything I needed to know. I had no one left in this world, in this house. Derek stood up and said, "If you want to live here, you play by my rules. Otherwise, you can leave this house right now. And if you walk out that door today, Claire, don't ever look back." I didn't shed a single tear. I went to my room, packed a few clothes into an old suitcase, grabbed my design books, and walked out the front door. I really didn't look back. I left Pennsylvania and came straight to Seattle. The early years were so incredibly tough, I can't even put it into words. I rented a basement room in the cheapest part of town, where it got so freezing in the winter I had to sleep in a sweater. During the day, I worked as a drafter at a construction company, just translating other people's blueprints onto a computer. At night, I'd come home and do freelance work. I had forgotten what sleep felt like. My life was reduced to nothing but grinding and saving every single dollar. I'd go to the supermarket and buy the cheapest bread and noodles. Whenever I stood shivering in the cold, hesitating to turn on the heater to save money, I would remember Derek's face when he told me I wasn't capable of doing anything. That anger, that humiliation, became my fuel. It never let me quit. About a year after arriving in Seattle, I started a strange habit. I bought a folder, a dark blue binder. I wouldn't call it an emotional diary. It was a record, a dossier of evidence. I'm a highly organized person, and I like keeping track of things. I started keeping tabs on Derek's life through the internet. I found out he had sold Dad's beautiful house, the one we grew up in, and dumped all that money, including my inheritance, into opening a fancy restaurant right in the middle of town. A business he knew absolutely nothing about. In that blue binder, I created a tab, Year 1, and filed a printout of the first news article about Derek's restaurant. As time went on, I kept adding things to that binder. Derek would post pictures of his brand new cars on social media. I'd print those pictures, write the date in red pen, and file them away. He was living it up on luxurious vacations with my money, while here in Seattle, when my old shoes got holes in them, I was gluing them back together just to go to work. After 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, I finally launched my own boutique firm, Claire Design Associates. I only had 2 clients, but they were mine. I worked day and night. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to visit sites and sit in the office drafting designs until 11 p.m. Around this time, I met Ryan. Ryan was a very calm, understanding, and supportive man. He never asked probing questions about my past. He just saw my work ethic and stood by me. We got married in a very simple ceremony and bought a small but gorgeous house in the Seattle suburbs. On the flip side, my blue binder was getting thicker. Year 3, tab 3. Derek's restaurant started hemorrhaging money. Terrible online customer reviews. I printed every single review and filed it. Year 5, tab 5. Derek had to shut the restaurant down. He was drowning in debt to his suppliers. He sold off his luxury cars. Year 8, tab 8. I found out Mom was very sick and needed heart surgery. Derek didn't even have the money to get her admitted to the hospital. From miles away, through a lawyer and without revealing my name, I quietly paid Mom's entire medical bill, $45,000. I filed that receipt in the blue binder too. I didn't do it because I expected anything from Mom. I did it because I was my father's daughter, and I could never be like Derek. By year 12, my firm, Claire Design Associates, had become one of the most prominent firms in the city. We had won a massive government contract to build a new public library right in the city center. Suddenly, my name and my designs were being featured in major architecture magazines. My firm's revenue was in the millions. I was no longer that scared, helpless 23-year-old girl who was shoved out of her own home. I was a woman who had built her entire empire with her own 2 hands, without inheriting a dime. And I knew very well that as the news of my success hit the press, someone sitting in Pennsylvania was watching very closely. I knew it was only a matter of time before the ghosts of my past came knocking at my door again. And that's exactly what happened. Last Tuesday evening, after 12 years, Derek was sitting on the couch in my living room. He was holding the glass of water I had given him. He was looking at my house, my expensive furniture, the beautiful chandelier hanging from the ceiling, with incredibly greedy eyes, as if he were mentally calculating the price tag of everything around him. He took a sip of water, pulled a folded piece of paper out of his pocket, smoothed it out, looked at me, and said, "Claire, I'll get straight to the point. I'm in real trouble. All the money I put into the business went under. I borrowed from a lot of people and now they're threatening me. The bank is about to foreclose on my house, and Mom, I can't even afford Mom's care anymore. I know things were bad between us in the past. I made some mistakes, but at the end of the day, we're blood. You're my little sister. And I really hope you won't leave your family drowning in a time like this." I listened to his entire speech very carefully. I showed zero emotion. I just asked, "How much money do you need, Derek? Look at your little list there and tell me what you expect from me." He took a deep breath, like he had rehearsed this moment 100 times. He said, $150,000. Just 150 grand, Claire. If you give me that, I can save my house and fix everything. I saw on the news your company is doing amazing. This kind of money is probably nothing to you now. It would just be a tiny favor." I stood up from my chair. I didn't say a word to him. I walked over to my study. My study is very quiet and organized. I opened the bottom drawer of my desk, where I keep my most important tax documents, and from behind those papers, I pulled out that dark blue binder. It was pretty heavy by now. It held the weight of 12 years. I brought the binder back into the living room and placed it on the glass coffee table, right next to Derek's crumpled piece of paper. Derek looked at the blue binder, then at me. He looked confused. He asked, "What is this, Claire? What did you bring?" I spoke in a very calm but firm voice. "Derek, you brought a list of what you want from me today. Well, I brought a list of everything you've taken from me over the last 12 years. This is my accounting." I opened the binder, flipped to tab 1, pulled out the first page, and laid it on the table. I said, Year 1. Look at this bank statement from 12 years ago. When you kicked me out of the house, according to Dad's will, I was entitled to $320,000. You fraudulently transferred all 320 grand into your own name. Here's the copy of the transfer. The color started draining from Derek's face. He stammered, Claire, the situation was different back then. I raised my hand and silenced him. I flipped to tab 2, pulled out the second page. Year 2. You sold Dad's house, the one he built with his blood, sweat, and tears, at rock-bottom prices for just $250,000. If that house were still around today, it would be worth at least 800 grand. You sank all that money, along with my inheritance, into a restaurant you knew absolutely nothing about. Look at this. These are photos of the expensive vacations you were blowing that money on, while I was walking the streets of Seattle, wearing down my shoes. Sweat was dripping down Derek's neck. He shrank back into the couch. He panicked and said, Claire, that's all in the past. Why are you doing this just to humiliate me? I told you I'm in trouble. I completely ignored him. I opened tab 8 and pulled out a white receipt. I slid it in front of him. Year 8. Derek, when Mom was sick and needed heart surgery, you left her in the general ward of the hospital. You said you didn't have the money, even though that very same month you financed a brand new car. Look at this receipt. This is a $45,000 hospital bill that I paid from right here in Seattle, so Mom could get proper treatment. Did you ever wonder where that money came from? You didn't even bother to find out. Hearing this, Derek went completely numb. He had absolutely no idea that I was the one who paid Mom's bill. His eyes were wide open in shock. He was frozen in his seat. The room fell dead silent. The only sound was the rain pouring outside. I snapped the blue binder shut. The click of the metal rings echoed through the whole room. I picked up Derek's crumpled piece of paper and dropped it right into his lap. Looking him dead in the eye, I said, Derek, you didn't come here because you regret your mistakes. You didn't come here because you missed your little sister after 12 years. You only came here because your math is completely broken, and my math is doing just fine. When you had Dad's money, I wasn't part of the family. Now that you have nothing left and you saw my name in the news, suddenly we're blood again. With a trembling voice, Derek said, So you're just going to leave me to die, Claire? Please, I'll lose everything. Standing tall, I replied in an ice-cold, crystal-clear voice. I already helped you 12 years ago, Derek, when you stole my entire inheritance, and I chose not to sue you in court. I let you keep that money. Consider that money, those $320,000, as my final handout and my inheritance. Because starting today, you will not get a single dollar, not a single cent from me. This house, this success, was built on my sleepless nights and my hard work. There is no room in it for you or your betrayal. You can walk out that door now, and yes, just like you told me 12 years ago, on your way out, don't look back. Derek sat there for a moment. He was probably hoping that I would eventually break down, cry like a sister, forgive him, and hand over the cash. But when he looked at my face, at my eyes, and saw absolutely zero sympathy and zero tears, he knew his game was over for good. He got up with heavy steps, started walking toward the door. He opened it, and without saying a word, without looking back, he walked out. I shut the door and locked it. I stood by the window, watching him get soaked in the rain as he walked toward his beat-up car. In that moment, I didn't feel the thrill of victory, nor did I feel any sorrow. I just felt a profound, peaceful sense of freedom. It felt like I had thrown a massive 12-year-old weight off my shoulders. Family isn't just about blood. Family are the people who hold your hand when times get tough. If someone only comes back into your life when your net worth goes up, they aren't family. They're just an opportunist. I started my life from zero, and today I'm proud that my foundation is so strong that no storm and no fake relationship can ever shake it. That was my story. 12 years, one blue binder, and one final decision. If you have ever faced someone in your life who only came crawling back for their own benefit, please share your story in the comments below. It gives me so much strength to know I'm not alone in this experience, and that so many of us have won this silent battle. And if this story touched you in any way, please like this video, share it with anyone who might need to hear it today, and don't forget to subscribe to BookBite Studio for more deep, raw, and touching stories like this. Take great care of yourselves, know your worth, and we'll see you very soon with a brand new story.